Hello everyone, my name is Serafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And, oops, I didn't think the ban list was going to be today, so I didn't wake up in time and I had to leave for work. So, sorry if you guys have already seen this, you probably have already watched some other YouTuber, but here's my reaction to the Master Duel ban list for June 2025. First up, there is a new secret pack coming out that is going to include Time Seal and Glow Up Bulb, and so both of these cards are being moved from Forbidden to 3. Time Seal is bad. Time Seal is a meme card from an old format. What it does is it lets you skip the draw phase of your opponent's next turn. You can't activate this card before your opponent draws if you set this card. So it lets you skip their draw phase for the turn afterwards. So essentially, you can skip their draw phase on turn 4 if you go first. And some people are saying, well, what if you use this with transaction rollback on your turn? Essentially, that is a very difficult way of making your opponent discard a card. There are already ways to discard cards. It's not like there is a convenient combo that already hand rips your opponent for 5 and is looking for a way to time seal. That's not happening. For the most part, consistent hand rip caps out at 2 or 3 cards. And so if you want to stop your opponent from drawing a card, you're better off just hand ripping them and also building a good board, as opposed to trying to mill Time Seal and then mill transaction rollback. There's like 800 cards that are better for transaction rollback than Time Seal. So this card's not going to see any play at all. Don't even bother with it. Glow Up Bulb is more interesting. Level 1 plant tuner monster. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. If you do special summon this card, you can only use this effect once per duel. This card was most likely banned due to Crystron Halki Fibrax, where it was basically a 1-card Halki Fibrax. You could normal summon it, link it into Link Karibo, mill it, then you'd have a tuner and another monster, so you could link into Halki Fibrax, special summon a tuner from your deck, and then you're off to the races with, Mecha Phantom Beast or Roarodon or whatever. So, yeah, that was never the intention of Glow Up Bulb, so it makes sense that it would get banned, but, Hulk's been banned forever, so why not bring this card back for the actual Synchro decks that want to use it? It is a level 1 tuner monster. It is a pretty decent card. It being at 3 is interesting. I've actually never played in a meta where Glow Up Bulb was at 3. Every time that I've played, it's either been at 1 or Forbidden. I'm pretty sure. Does Duel Links have this card? Hold on. Oh, Duel Links does have this card unlimited. Yeah, but Duel Links doesn't have nearly as good synchros as Master Duel does. Duel Links players play this card at 1. And they only play it in 1 because of Revolution de Fleur. There are ways to mill this. There are ways to use this card to get some extra value. And you could even use this as Xyz material, because you can mill it and then special summon it and then use it with Snowdrop the Rika Fairy Queen. Or Snowdrop... What is her? I don't remember her full name. But there's a Rika monster that makes all of your monsters level 8. They're plants. So there are definitely ways you can use this. You can obviously use this to Link Climb. You can use it to Synchro Climb. And you can use it for Xyz summoning. All of them in plants and in other decks. So I think this is probably the biggest change for the unhits. Interested to see what some people will cook. In particular, my friend Bulbasaur Boy. Who plays Plant Link. He is pretty good at it. So I will wait to see what he does with this. Next up, we have Astrograph Sorcerer going from 1 to 3. I assume this is important because Astrograph has been at 1 for so long. Its effect is not once per turn. The pendulum effect is, but the monster effect isn't. But I don't really know it's already a card that people try and loop, and I guess having 3 copies of it makes it easier to loop because you can just open more copies of it or search more copies of it. But it's not a Pendulum Magician, so I don't know how searchable this card is. Getting to draw extra cards is obviously very, very useful to you, and then also summoning a rank 7 or level 7 from your hand that is a Dark Pendulum monster that gives you a lot of options. You can either Exceed summon, you could Fusion summon, you could even Synchro summon if you have like a level 3 tuner monster. So there are a lot of different ways that Astrograph being at 3 allows you to take additional advantage. I don't know that this is the Pendulum deck that Konami should be promoting, to be honest. Like they just let out Perform Ages, and Perform Ages haven't done anything, right? So I feel like they could try and push another deck, but I guess this the Electromite, Astrograph, Sorcerer, Pendulum pile is like the most likely deck to actually see any play if they give it a little bit of a push. This is probably the most bang for their buck that they're going to get with Pendulums, but that's their fault. They should just print better Pendulum cards. Whatever. I mean, for the people out there who like Pendulum, congratulations, don't time yourselves out. Next up, we have Mathmech Diameter going from 1 to 3. This is actually really good. I have seen a lot of people hating on this, saying that it's not that big of a deal. Mathmech Diameter is, when this card is normal summon, you can target one level 4 Cyberse monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but it cannot activate its effects. A Mathmech monster that was Synchro or Exceed summon using this card on the field as material gains the following effect. Once per turn during the turn this card was special summoned, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can negate that effect. You can only use this effect once per turn. This is really good. In particular, it's really good with a card called Mathmech Superfactorial, which is a trap card that Mathmech searches that allows them to Exceed summon during the opponent's turn. And when you Exceed summon your monster, and you get to, you get to either do a search or rip a card from your opponent's hand and field, you also get a negate. That's useful. In particular, it's very useful for pure Mathmech. And in particular, to be real, pure Mathmech kind of died when Diameter got put to 1 for this reason. Mathmech has mostly been used as like a Cyberse pile since then. So there are a lot of different ways that this could change things. Circular is still at 3, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Circular is still at 3, so Circular, Diameter, yeah, you could build a pure Mathmech list. You could use this to improve your existing Terahertz Turbo list, which Terahertz Turbo has not been nearly as prominent since Tenpai has stopped showing up so much. But now that Snake Eyes is getting banned out, it's possible that Tenpai will become more popular. And if Tenpai does become more popular, then the Firewall deck will become more popular to counter it. So maybe that's why there's not a Tenpai hit on this list. So maybe this is their Tenpai hit. It's just like buffing one of their biggest predators. It makes sense, to be honest. You could play this in Malice. You could play this in Ryzeal. It's a level 4 that has it has rank 4 synergy, and it's also a Cyberse monster. And it gives, in particular, tuner monsters gives Malice access to Synchro summoning. So you have a lot of different options with this card. It's just a really, really solid card. And to be honest, Synchro decks in particular need tuners. So when a tuner is limited, it really hurts the consistency of the deck and its options. So the fact that you can play 3 tuners in Mathmech now, when you could only play 1 before, is very important. So yeah, I think that this is a fantastic change. 10 out of 10. I look forward to seeing what people do with it. Next up, we have Golem that guards the Millennium Treasure going from 3 to 1. Okay, this is probably the least effective way to hit Millennium, and also the most disruptive, so this is a huge L. So, for those of you that do not understand how the Millennium package works, let me explain. Alright, you got 3 cards. You got Senjinin, you got 4 cards. You have Senjinin, who holds the Millennium Treasures, Golem that guards the Millennium Treasures, Wedju Temple, and Snake Eyes Doom Dragon. Alright. Senjinin's effect activates from the hand, place itself in the spell and trap zone. Then you can special summon it by paying 2,000 life points, and if you do, you take your Golem that guards the Millennium Treasures and set it in your spell and trap zone from your deck. Golem that guards the Millennium Treasures pay 2,000 life points to special summon itself, add Wedju Temple to the hand, and then you get to activate Wedju Temple, place a monster from your hand in your spell and trap zone, then you place Senjinin from your deck in your spell and trap zone, send both of those monsters to the graveyard, which allows you to special summon Snake Eyes Doom Dragon from your extra deck, and then you can Exceed summon into a rank 8, which is usually Zombie Vampire, and be in your turn. This gives you access to 2 bodies, and actually a 3rd body, because you're going to Exceed summon and then you mill 4. You get to choose 1 card from the 4 cards that you milled from yourself and your opponent to special summon. That's how Zombie Vampire works. And you summon that, and now you have 3 bodies. So it's a very, very solid engine. What changes if they put this at 1? Well, not a lot, to be honest, because all you have to do is, instead of playing 3 copies of Golem and 1 copy of Temple, you play 3 copies of Temple and 1 copy of Golem. And in fact, that costs you nothing because they're both super rares. So when you have the free dust from disenchanting your Golem, you can use it to craft your Temples if you don't already have them. So literally nothing about the number of cards in the deck changes. What does change is the way the line works. So before, if you opened Golem, you could play Golem, pay 2k, summon it, get Wedju Temple, activate, place place Senjinin, and then place Golem in your back row. You would still pay 4,000 life points, but you would end up with the same board. Oh, Senjinin adds a monster from your deck to your hand. It doesn't place it in the spell and trap zone. Oh, okay. Okay, so in that case, no, that still works, right? I was thinking that maybe that would mean that you can't, that if you open specifically Golem, that the combo wouldn't work anymore, but it still does, because Senjinin is getting placed by Wedju Temple, so you could still draw another Senjinin from your deck and set that in your back row. So yeah, the only thing that changes when you open Wedju, you activate Wedju, you place a card from your hand and the Golem from your deck. Golem special summon itself. Or no, Temple, place both, place Senjinin special summon itself, add Golem, place itself in the back row, send 2. Okay, so the only difference is that if you open Temple, you only have the Zombie Vampire, you don't have an additional body on your board. I don't know what Crystron is doing with this package. I don't know if they need this level 6 for Synchro Summoning, but that's all that's changing, is that, and you save yourself 2,000 life points when you open Temple as well. So you have more life points, and you have less bodies. I've said this before on this channel. For those of you that are new, because you're only watching because of Master Duel, let me explain. My philosophy with ban lists, which Konami continuously breaks, is if you think an interaction should not happen in the game, the solution is not to make it happen less often. The solution is to stop it from happening at all. This is my problem with the Limit 1 on Triple Tactics Talent. Triple Tactics Talent can hand rip your opponent on turn 1. That's not good for the game. And their solution is to say, well, we'll make it less consistent. No. If you don't want something to happen and you make it less consistent, it will still happen, and when it does happen, it will feel worse for the other player because the opponent now, instead of being consistently good, has just gotten lucky, and you aren't, since it's inconsistent, you shouldn't play around it. So this does not change anything. If you don't want players who are not playing Exodia to use Snake Eyes Doom Dragon and the Senjinin to make a rank 8 on turn 1 before they normal summon, stop that from happening, which you could have done by banning Snake Eyes Doom Dragon. And if you did that, not only would that have solved the problem instead of made it less consistent, but you also would not have hurt Exodia. Now, Exodia players suffer. Why? Was Golem that guards the Millennium Treasure an unfair card? No, it wasn't. All that was happening was that non-Exodia players were taking this engine and using it to make a rank 8 before they normal summoned. That's not the Millennium package's fault. That is Snake Eyes Doom Dragon summoning itself from the extra deck for 2 cards from your back row. That is a stupid mechanic, and no one plays Snake Eyes Doom Dragon except in this particular interaction. And Crystal Beasts. Chrome, shoutouts, get wrecked, nerd. Anyway, so this is a terrible change. And I'm sorry to all my Exodia players. RIP. Exodia was actually playable and actually decent. It was a good deck. It was easy to understand. It had a decent number of interactions, and it was well protected while not being too combo heavy. It was like a Hydra Chronos deck. I'll say that. Like my husband Diakonos. That's what I would say. I would say that Millennium is a Diakonos level deck. It is a deck that is very simple. It's not super long. It's not a super long combo, and you can reasonably pass on a board without needing 800 hand traps and without going outside of your archetype. So that's the kind of deck that my husband would love to play. So I get it. It appeals to a very specific type of Yu-Gi-Oh player, like a newish player, a player who's willing to try Master Duel, even though it's a very daunting task, but is also too new to play a ridiculously complex long combo deck like Marincess. Okay, you can play Exodia. It has nostalgia appeal. It's decent. You know, you get a spell and trap negate. You get to blow up the board, and you have a monster that can't be destroyed. You know, decent. And if you play the game enough, you will see the weaknesses, and then you will either improve the deck or you will move on to another deck that's better. So it's a very good gateway into Master Duel. I think the Exodia package is fantastic, and I hope, just like the Shining Sarcophagus deck, that it gets a secret pack very soon, because people should play that deck. This is rough. So RIP. This is a bad change. All right. Next up, we have Oak banned. So Snake Eyes Oak goes from 3 to 0. So for those of you that didn't play in the WCS, you might be thinking, or WCQ, you might be thinking, what? But actually, hold on. To give you guys some context, if we look at the actual like WCS tops, so the number 2 player in Japan played 3 copies of Oak. The first player in Area B of Asia played 1 copy of Oak. The first place in Area E was only playing 1 Oak. Global Rank 2. Okay, Global Rank 2 was only playing 1 Oak. And was also only playing 1 Golem. Ooh. So this guy isn't too hurt by that. That's unfortunate. Maybe this wasn't the best change. A lot of people are playing 3 copies of Golem, though. Okay, here we go. Global Rank 4. I think this is the same guy. Yeah, the guy who was second in Japan was yeah, the guy who was second in Japan was 4th in the world. So that's still only 1 player. Hold on, let me see some more lists. Global Rank 6. Global Rank 13. There were only a few people who played Snake Eyes. I can't believe Brandon did as well as it did. Okay. Most people in the top 100 were only playing 1 copy of Oak, but some people were playing it at 3. You know, so banning the card changes the combo a lot. In particular, it makes the deck a lot less resilient to hand traps, especially Nibiru. So at this point, Snake Eyes has been hit a lot. You know, they have 3 of their cards limited to 1, and now 1 of their other cards is banned. This is basically all that they had left to do, other than either ban OSS or hit Diabellstar, and they really, really don't want to hit Diabellstar. And I can understand that, I guess. But as long as Diabellstar is at 3, Snake Eyes will still continue to be very consistent. At the very least, Oak being banned means that it's a lot more difficult for you to, for example, use the Millennium Engine to set one of your Snake Eyes cards from your deck, and then use Oak to send it so that you can get Flamberge. That you have to do Ash. You have to use Ash for that now, and Ash is at 1. So does this mean Snake Eyes players are going to play Birch? Probably not. Birch is terrible, right? It can special summon itself from the hand. Oh, it can't send. Okay, it doesn't have the ability to send cards to from the deck to the graveyard. Okay. Only during your opponent's turn you can send 2 cards to special summon a Snake Eyes from your hand deck. Okay. Yeah, no, that's. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Snake Eyes now, it's like 1/1/1 banned and one of, and one of, sometimes one of. So they've basically got no cards left. Does this kill the deck? I think this will make a lot of the higher level players stop playing the deck. I think that you will still see a lot of Snake Eyes players in Plat and Diamond, but I think that fewer players will play the deck to Master just because it will become more and more frustrating the higher up the ladder you go. And then once enough players have gotten sick of the deck because they keep losing, it will just change the meta by itself. And that's what we all want. What we all want, to be honest, is for people to stop playing Snake Eyes, no matter what the reason. So I think this is probably the best thing they could have done if they weren't going to hit Diablo Star. And that's it. Okay, that was 20 minutes. That was a lot longer than I was expecting. Mathmech is really cool. Alright, that's my Banlist reaction. I think that this will change the game for the better, but we need to see people actually using the cards that get unhit as opposed to just ignoring them, and that's about it. My name is Rafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.